thanks again, Greg, for putting forward your time, mate, to present. Should be a good session. All right, and welcome to newcomers. Welcome to the Power BI for Enviro's, or Power BI and Data Analytics for Enviro's. So for those people that are new, first times, welcome. Our mission here, as we've been doing for the last sort of 4 years or so, is really share case studies largely focused around the Enviro industry. Allow people to learn new tips and tricks and really empower Enviros on their Power BI journey. We branch out as a bit with this session, less Enviro focus. This, all about AI, but we'll get into that in a little bit. General sort of housekeeping, we're all relatively familiar with the virtual presentation setting now, but just as a courtesy to Greg, please mute yourself when not speaking. Type any questions in the chat, or there'll be different opportunities. Greg, you're happy just interim different points if there's questions. Yeah,
mate, love hecklers. Come on in.
Yep. The hecklers. There we go. Sounds like you got a lot of experience there, Greg. No, so just as a reminder to everyone, this session's being recorded. It'll be shared afterwards on the YouTube channel and the meetup group. And if Greg's showing any small things, you can hold control on your keyboard and zoom in with your teams. Through Teams. Just like to also acknowledge the Bibbulmun people as the traditional owners of the land on which we are dialing in from today, being based in Perth near Fremantle. We want to pay our respects to the Whadjuk people, their elders, both past and present. There's a view from Applecross Jetty overlooking the city, not too far away from home, so it's quite nice for us. Also like to acknowledge all the traditional owners from where the people on the call are dialing in from, and also Indigenous peoples across the globe if you're dialing in from internationally. Sticking within Australia, very soon, in just under 2 weeks, we've got National Reconciliation Week. This year's theme is all about bridging now to next. So it's reflecting on that ongoing connection between the past, present, and future. It's always extremely important to reconnect with our, traditional owners across the country, respect the lands, never more so than now, given, what's happened over the past few years. We've got a new government, and hopefully we can get more integration with the sort of way that culture is, and keep building in, traditional owner sort of culture as the first Australians that settled in here many years ago. More information you can explore through the reconciliation.org website as well. Discovery Eye, that's the company Alice and I run, and Daniel's also part of it, who's on the call. We sort of put on these meetups again for the people that are new, for the people that dial in every month. It's nice to see you again, and sorry for boring you with this information again. But the people that are new, sort of the areas that we work in. So feel free to get in touch if you wanted more support in this space, working within the environmental or the water industry. That's sort of like where we sort of focus our attention. But on to today's session, which is where everyone's dialed in from, is about the current state of AI in the world of data and analytics with Greg Nash on the call. So those people that don't know Greg Nash, we'll get onto him very, very soon, but he's still the Melbourne Power BI and Fabric meetup group person. He was one of the first people that Alice and I actually connected with 6 years ago in Melbourne. Feels like a lifetime ago, Greg. Very, very welcoming, very warm, very nice person. So we're very privileged, Greg, to have you presenting today. And what we're going to talk about is AI and how it's reshaping industries. So I'll just go through the blurb, Greg, relatively quick, because I think it's quite important to set the scene for what you're going to talk about today. So AI is reshaping industries faster than we ever imagined. And nowhere is this impact more profound than in the world of structured data that a lot of us on the call deal with. So with a lot of the different tools that we have available, there's a growing fear and excitement that AI might be coming for our jobs, but what's really happening in the industry? So in this session, Greg's going to explore this current state of AI in the context of structured data and analytics, cutting through a lot of the hype and looking at real use cases. What's possible, what's the risk, and what opportunities are there for a lot of the emerging data professionals that we have largely on the call here today. So we'll look at the real impact, structured data and AI skills for the future, and also the strategic elements of how you can integrate it into your current workflows and processes. So by the end of the session, it's a hope that you'll have a clear, realistic understanding of AI's impact on structured data roles and how to position yourself and the team to stay ahead. So it's something, Greg, I'm really looking forward to hearing, what's going on, what's being used out there. And just as an introduction to Greg, probably most of you know him, but in case you don't, he's self-proclaimed Power BI unicorn, been dealing with Power BI for a long, long time. As I said before, the Melbourne User Group host. He's also a data platform MVP, founder and principal consultant for Dear Watson Consulting. Greg spent his lifetime in IT, and more recently as a passionate advocate for Microsoft Power BI, Fabric, and the Power Platform. He's got extensive experience in developing and deploying data and AI solutions to a wide array of industries and organizations. He's a trainer, speaker, content creator, and data platform MVP since 2021. So, Greg, with that, mate, like I said, very excited, very
Awesome.
honored to have you on the call, mate. And I'll stop sharing and let you take it away, mate. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, everybody. Awesome to be here. It's been such a long time, it feels like, since I've seen Christian and Alice. So I'm actually stoked to be on a call with them. It's been ages. They were part of our community here in Melbourne for a while, and a really valuable part. And so it's great to see them still doing their thing. So thanks for having me. I'm always happy to participate in this community stuff. And thanks for coming along. Obviously, hot topic, data and AI. I'm just getting my screen sharing sorted out, so I'll get that sorted out. I also was starting my F64 Fabric on my portal here, getting Copilot running. Although Copilot does run on non-X F64 now, that's like a new thing that they just recently announced. We'll get into all of that. I'm going to start the presentation. Hopefully it'll work. And go. Hey, there it goes. All right, so great introduction. Thanks, Christian. As he said, the presentation today is about the current state of AI in the world of data and analytics. My name's Greg Nash. As Christian said, I'm the principal consultant at Dear Watson Consulting. Got a bunch of certifications in Microsoft. I've been doing Microsoft stuff for a long time. I've been doing Power BI for 10 years, which is like when it came out, July 2015. And more recently Fabric, and then obviously when AI came out, I'm the sort of person that jumps into these things with both feet. So I've been using ChatGPT since, how long has it been? 2 years now. January 2022, is that when it got released? I don't even have the stats on ChatGPT. I spoke at the Prompt Engineering Global Conference, talking about prompt engineering and using iterative prompt engineering to build complex visualizations in Deneb, which is DMP's famous data visualization tool in Power BI. So I've been tinkering around with. I'm very interested in the idea of AI and how do we actually get this thing to work, right? How do we actually get it to work? Not let's talk about the hype around it. I'm really interested in the practical application of AI. What do these large language models do that we can use in our day-to-day work, and what are they not so good at that we potentially don't need to worry about our jobs for a while because of that? And so I really wanted to start out by talking a little bit about, giving you a bit of context, talking a little bit about what's happening in the industry, and what some of the promises are from some of organizations like Microsoft, right? AI transformation. AI is kind of promising to transform how everybody works with data and without data. You know, like there's a huge push from every global organization. So Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta, they're all integrating AI into everything that they do. And they've made huge investments to do that. And I did actually notice there was an interview with Satya Nadella recently where he said, "Well, we've made the investment now. Let's see what happens." It's like they need to start to see like ROI on their investment now, right? So they're interested to know, is this AI stuff actually going to affect people's lives? Like, is it actually going to work, or is this just another .com boom that we have to live through in technology, and that it'll be a bit of a storm in a teacup, and maybe it does some useful things for a smaller number of people? Like, where is AI going to land? And the interesting thing about this part of the industry is that nobody really knows, right? Nobody knows what the final impact of AI will be. They've in the Microsoft world, they've integrated into a whole bunch of areas in their ecosystem. If you haven't heard about Copilot, then you're not part of any kind of Microsoft marketing thing, because they have literally been spruiking the word Copilot and the integration of Copilots into all of their things for the last 2 years, essentially. They signed that huge deal with OpenAI they basically, I think they own 70% of the revenue of OpenAI for 3 years or something like that. So they basically are hosting all of OpenAI on their ecosystem, and that gives them this inside running into integrating AI into all of their things. So in our world, we're dealing in the world of Microsoft Power BI, in Excel, in Fabric, in the data and analytics world. All of those things have some kind of Copilot, and so there's so much going on in the industry, as we all know. And if you're sort of even, half paying attention, everybody's talking about it. And I think there is, like a real kind of excitement around AI creating new opportunities. It's potentially opening up new roles. There's new roles at organizations all over the place that are head of AI, people who are responsible for putting AI agents in, AI agent developers, these types of things. There is really, I think people saw a big opportunity for enhanced productivity, automation of routine tasks, allowing people to do those things. And like I'm using ChatGPT to write emails, to look at transcripts of meetings and summarize them, these sorts of things. There's lots of really cool stuff that you can do with AI, and people are learning more and more. And I want to go through some of those things today. But there's also a fear, right? This is a little bit scary for people. Is AI going to take my job? How much of my job is AI going to take over? And then what? And then what else do I need to? Well, do I need to learn something new? And like depending on your appetite for change and your thinking around this stuff, this can be a scary proposition, is to having to learn a set of new skills. Like I work in lots of different organizations, and I can tell you every day I run into somebody where, I learn a little bit about what they're doing in their job, and I'm like, you really need to start thinking about upskilling. Like your job is right on the cutting block for AI, and I think that fear is something that we need to make sure that we're on top of from a data and analytics perspective. Like, because data and analytics, you talk to people about AI, it's definitely one of the things that they do. So we need to it's a balancing act, right? We need to leverage, we need to look for opportunities to leverage AI to make our jobs easier and better and do all the good things. But also there is an aspect of preparing for change. Like, we have to assume that data and analytics is going to be impacted in some way, because that's what they're all saying is going to happen. So what are those strategies that we can use to adapt to the new world? Where do we think the main adaptations will be required? How much of it is going to be done? And I think the good news is that, based on the practical reality of things out here in the real world, where we're actually trying to implement these AIs and make them work, it's not as easy as it looks, right? People are struggling to do complex tasks with AI. Simple stuff, yeah. I mean, of course, but as the complexity ramps up really, really quickly. And so I think there's kind of a good news and a bad news story happening around it. So what are the main kind of roles where people are talking about AI replacing, that it's probably possible right now? If you're doing really basic data processing, and I'm talking about like sort of if your job every day is to go to one website, download the same spreadsheet, go to that spreadsheet, make 3 changes to a column, upload that new set of data to something else, and then hit refresh on a Power BI report, that kind of very basic either data entry with very basic data cleaning, I suspect that they'll figure out how to do that with AI relatively quickly. So that's one of the ones that's quite under threat at the moment, and they're the sorts of people that you kind of run into where you're like, you need to add a few more strings to your bow here. You need to add a few more feathers to your cap to be able to, justify your ongoing employment, I think, there. Because if you're doing very repetitive, very routine kind of data processing type tasks, data entry, that type of stuff, then yeah, definitely that's something that I think is under threat. If you're doing any kind of predictive maintenance piece where it's your responsibility to predict what things are that things are failing, there's a lot of work happening in that space. There's a lot of robust AI systems that do that type of stuff. And so if you're in the manual inspection space, for example, then maybe that is something that is going to be affected, although I would say less so. I think probably the one where there's the most amount of excitement, particularly in the Microsoft side, they talk about this type of stuff a lot, is around customer support. If you're in a customer support role right now where you answer people's questions and say, hey, this is the right way to do things, there's a huge push for AI chatbots and particularly voice agents. So this is where you're actually speaking to somebody, like who is an AI. That's getting really cool. In fact, we'll probably look at a demo of that if we've got time, because it's amazing how advanced these things are getting. And so routine customer inquiries, anything where you're kind of just looking up a knowledge base and repeating that kind of stuff, IT support, uh, support for FPOS machines, all that kind of stuff, call center type stuff, that is definitely an area where AI is going to be affecting people's roles. And so I think the most relevant one for us is around that routine data processing. Now, for someone like me, I see that as a good thing, because I'm like, I don't like doing all that routine data processing work. I don't like going and having to download spreadsheets and stuff. Like, let's automate those pieces. But there are people out there in the world who that's literally their whole job. So, okay, so what do we do there? In terms of creating new roles, there's lots of new roles becoming available in the AI space. So AI ethics and governance, that is a huge area. So organizations can't really do anything until they figure out the governance and the ethics behind AI, and lots of organizations are not prepared for that. So they're not really sure, should we send all of our data to the cloud and allow ChatGPT to look at it? Is that a good idea? And generally speaking, no. And if you're in a financial industry, for example, then you're basically breaking like CPS 230 rules and all sorts of other APRA and AFCA rules. So there's lots of opportunity in that space around understanding how AI kind of works, and then how that governance of that data, and then who should be doing that, who should be doing what, and that kind of stuff. Building and maintaining AI is obviously a huge area of growth. There's a massive need for people that can build agents, so agent builders, so people who can actually build this stuff. Now, this is surprisingly quite good for people who are already doing data, because if you're doing data, actually the skills to build a dashboard are very similar to the skills you required for building an agent. The reason why is because essentially at the core of everything, we're finding that it's very much about gleaning information about the business process and what's actually happening in the real world from business users, which is exactly what we do in the data world all the time. We're constantly asking them, like, how does this work and why do you measure it and what do you need to do? And so those skill sets are very transferable. So if you're currently in the data world and you're feeling kind of, I'm not really sure about data, I would definitely look into AI agent building as a possible extra string to your bow. It's kind of a cool area. It's fun to do. It's kind of easy to do. But the complexity is all around how you interact, like gleaning the information from the people. Because ultimately it comes down, you can't build AI without process and data. They're the two things that you can't build an agent. You can't do anything that does anything unless the business understands those two things. And guess what businesses are really bad at? They're really bad at data, and they're really bad at process. They don't document their processes. The process is however Bob did it last time, plus whatever my ideas are. And so those things, it's very immature, particularly in Australia. It's a very immature area. And so there's lots and lots of opportunity to kind of get into that space, and you'll have plenty of time to do that while these organizations are kind of getting their act together. And then there's like data strategy and things around AI integration, that kind of stuff. How do we bring AI in? So all of the new roles are going to be obviously AI related style roles. And so it's not just getting rid of roles, it's just getting rid of the sort of, I would suspect it, the roles most at threat. And like, to be clear, I haven't seen AI replace a single person yet. I think people have like made, I think in America in particularly, there's been redundancies based on an anticipation that AI could replace those people, and then they very quickly found out that that wasn't a great idea, because it takes longer for them to replace than they realize. And so now they're asking for all those people to come back. That sort of thing is happening, which does happen in these tech revolutions, and like that weird stuff like that happens. But ultimately speaking, I've never seen in a situation where it's like that guy got replaced by AI. So it's still not really happening in the real world right now. So let's talk a little bit about some of the actual tools that Microsoft are kind of got around the around this space, right? And everything, when we say AI, there's obviously a few different ideas around AI, right? So you've got generative AI, which is the ChatGPT revolution, and so all of these large language models and stuff that's really good at, using text and summarizing text and all that kind of stuff. And then there's more traditional, I'll call it ML, right, which is machine learning style AI, which we've had in the data space for a long time, which is like predictive analytics and piping data out to ML models, trained ML models to do predictions, to do categorization, to do classification, to do all this kind of stuff. Now that's been around for a little bit longer. That's the realm of data scientists, and they've had their tools to do that for a long time. When I talk about this latest kind of iteration of AI, we're really talking about those generative AI tools. And in the Microsoft's world, the main sort of things that we interact with, and certainly the ones that I've been using in my day to day, are Microsoft Copilot, Azure OpenAI or AI Foundry, and we'll have a look at what that is. And then there's things like just regular generative AI tools like ChatGPT and Claude, right? And I think they're all useful in their own way. Copilot, ChatGPT, and Claude, they're all basically the same kind of thing. Now, there's a disambiguation I need to do with Copilot, because Copilot is a brand that Microsoft use to brand all of their generative AI solutions across all of their product suites. The problem with this is that there's like 20 different Copilots. And so when we say Copilot, we don't actually mean the one that's just like ChatGPT necessarily. There's also Copilot in Fabric. There's Copilot in Power BI. There's Copilot in 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 Teams. There's Copilot in Excel. So there are different Copilots, and they are discrete products, which means that they're not really talking to each other. So you can't really start a conversation over in Microsoft Fabric and then continue that conversation into Power BI and then continue that conversation into Excel. It doesn't have that context across all of it. So it's not one product as such. They're individual implementations of generative AI solutions, all called Copilot, that all live in their own little tool. And I think that's a really important thing, because I think there's an assumption that at some point we're going to have this amazing, we're just going to talk to one thing. We're going to say, hey, Copilot, show me the latest data, and then it's going to get Fabric data, and it's going to generate a Power BI database, and then it's going to bring up Excel. That's completely not happening right now, right? It's all completely separate at the moment. And so maybe the long-term vision for Microsoft is that they're going to do that, and that's why they're calling it everything Copilot, but they're not really doing that. So there's these, I call them these integrated experiences. That you have chat experiences integrated in lots of different areas of Microsoft 365 tools. We can have a look at some of those when we get to kind of the demo spot. There's also AI Foundry, which is when you get into a bit more advanced implementations of AI. Let's say you wanted to build your own advanced AI. We're gonna, we use a special LLM. We want to use only, OpenAI's 3.5 engine for whatever reason. Then we would use AI Foundry to custom build our own solutions. And then there's things like GPTs and regular Copilot agents, these sort of agentic style experiences where you can build your own cool little mini AIs that do a specific task. And I use these a lot. And I really recommend that you get into building these. They're lots of fun, and they can save you a lot of time. And so we can maybe look at that as well. Might quickly pause here. Is there anyone got any thoughts around, like, anyone seeing any kind of AI stuff happening inside their organizations? Is anyone worried about their own job? Like, what's the kind of feeling out there in the world of Enviro's? Is there any particular use case that you're interested in?
I think I like the idea, and we've had a previous session, would have been like late last year, on like what you mentioned just before about the little GPTs that you can build for your own like
Mm,
routine tasks and stuff. And there was some pretty nice demos that was done
mm,
by our guest presenter Matt O'Brien on that one. We're also seeing in the Enviro world, I saw like someone's offering ChatGPT courses structured like tailored for water resources engineers. So some of like
mm,
the routine operate. So we're seeing those, but in terms of like what you've spoken about there and what you're showing about the particular tools and different options that we have, I'm not seeing anyone really focusing in on any of those apart from the Copilot that's being auto rolled out with every single Microsoft product under the sun, right? So,
mm. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I think regular kind of day-to-day, business users are not super focused on trying to, automate everything under the sun, and they're not trying to build, agents. And I think that was part of Microsoft's expectation was that that would potentially happen, but I think they overestimated how interested people are in this stuff. Like I think there's an element of that, and just it's similar. It's very like there's a lot of parallels with data.
yeah,
Just like with data, if you give access to people with data, like data access to people, you know, 20 of them will ignore it, and there'll be one person who's like, "This is awesome," and they get into Excel and they go crazy and they
yeah,
build all this cool stuff, and then and then they're Power BI people and they go crazy, like, and probably the most of the people on this call are that person, right? And that's why I think it's a really big opportunity for those types of people to also be the AI person, be like, "Hey, this is cool. We can build some cool stuff." And so I do see lots of parallels between the data world and the analytics world and AI, because ultimately AI is just another front end for us. It's another way for people to interact with that data. You still got to do all that hard work. The hard work around data is, as we all know, is getting the data out, transforming the data, understanding the business context, what are the questions people are trying to ask. Like you just replace all of that with AI, and it's exactly the same thing. We got to get the data out, we got to model it, we got to make sure that they understand the questions that they're trying to ask, and then the AI has to answer the question. It's exactly
yeah.
the same. It's just another front end.
That's a great point. Yeah, what you've said before,
Yeah.
AI needs process and data. I think that's quite important.
Mm.
There are some questions, but just again,
Oh yeah.
any opportunity for anyone on the call to put forward their experiences with AI, just as we got a whole point in the session. No,
I'm
maybe
gonna
if we
ju-
just do you want to tackle Alice's question, Greg? She
yeah. Let me just
says,
join the chat on the. Yeah. Can you just?
I'll
Oh,
read
hang
it
on.
out. It's all good.
Yep.
So Alice asks, how do you manage the security and governance aspects on projects now if your clients don't have policies in place? I think that follows on from what you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Around security and governance, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the big things is that so what happens is there's organizational pressure from the top because all of the big boys are like talking to all the CEOs, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
you know what you guys need? You need AI. And they're like, yes, we want AI. AI looks awesome. And then they say, minions, make it happen. And then someone tries to build some AI and they quickly run into, oh, we need to wait. We just want to send this data to the cloud. Like let's go. Let's have an AI. And then, and then there's, and so it causes this problem, which is that governance is a major drama, security is a major drama, and you need mature security and governance processes before you can do anything really with AI.
Hmm.
Um, and so managing security and governance is exactly the same as managing security and governance because we're kind of used to this problem in the data and analytics world, right? This is the same problem that we deal with day to day, which is you can't just share a report to everybody in the world. You can't enable, what is it, publish to web. Your favorite thing, Christian, that you know everything about. Like that that that's a big problem, and so that same problem exists, and so you manage it in the same way. Is that you say, well, we can't just turn this stuff on. We need to go through proper security and governance pieces. Now we can do POCs till the cows come home, and we can, use anonymized data, and we can do all that kind of stuff to prove the concept. And to be honest, that's where most organizations are. But that's why the opportunity is in security and governance right now, is because if you become like an expert in AI governance and security, which by the way is exactly the same as being an expert in data governance and security, then then you're a very valuable person right now because people need that. And organizations are having that. They're running into that problem, actively running into that problem where they say, cool, turn on cool technology, let's go. And then suddenly, no good anymore. All right, I've got the chat going on my phone because I can't see it from the thing. So hopefully that answered your question, Alice.
Yeah, it was good. I think
Uh,
just to add to that, someone wrote in, yeah, it follows on from what you just said. AI code and security reviews are the buzzwords getting traction at the moment. So that's 100% what you just said.
absolutely. Yep.
And
Yep.
Nish
We've
has
got
asked,
one.
yeah, you can read them, Greg,
Uh,
if you got them, if you're happy.
Yeah, I've got them here. Yeah. Do you think AI using AI makes people less skilled because it makes them much more reliant on it, even for simple tasks? I think this is a really interesting question, and I think it's really interesting to see the impact of AI on students, young people. Are they getting dumber because AI does everything? And it's kind of weird. When AI is really good in the hands of a skilled person, and it's not very good in the hands of an unskilled person. So what does that mean for I think, like, what does that mean for learning and how our brains work? Like, it gets pretty deep, this question, right? Because you're talking about, is this the dumbing down of society? But I think if that's the case, then AI would work well regardless of the skill and knowledge of the person using it. It would be good if that was the case. If it was just better, always better, then yes, I think we're facing a situation where it potentially does reduce the skill of the person that uses it. But I don't think right now, at least in the current iteration of AI, particularly the way that what I've seen, the way different people use it, I think it just saves skilled people a lot of time. Like, I don't write a lot of code now. I just don't write code. I get AI to do the first draft, and then I look at it and say whether it's good or not. And like someone who codes full time, like Daniel, I'd be interested to get your view on this, right? Are you using like GitHub Copilot to do a lot of code, or are you still like handwriting everything? Like, what's the kind of feeling of a programmer right now?
Me, it's about 50-50.
Yep. Yeah.
Copilot is like, because I do a lot of work on my own, Copilot is like having an intern that I can dispatch work to, but I still have to review. But it's
Yes.
a massive time saver in that capacity.
Yeah. And I find the same thing. It's exactly the same. It's like I know exactly what you need to write, but I just can't be bothered writing it. So you go off and write the first version, and then I'll tell you if it's correct. That's kind of the seems to be the best way to interact with it. Now, if you're going in blind and like, hey, I'm just going to build something, I'm going to what do they call it, vibe code? I'm going to vibe code up a new a new thing, and I have no idea how to code, and I don't know this language, and then you're cooked. You'll build something that is horrible. You might get the thing. I think an unskilled person can get further than they ever would have gotten before. So they'll get to the point probably where something runs, it'll just be horrific. Like, that's kind of the impression I get. So I think it does, to a certain extent, reduce some areas of skill, but I think overall you there's no replacing a skilled person right now. So I don't think it's necessarily um, I don't think it's going to necessarily make people less skilled as such. Would you recommend an agent building tutorial course? Absolutely. I'm not sure I know of too many good ones right now. I've got a particular way of building agents that I really like, and maybe I should just make a course around it. But I want to start socializing that idea. So I'll tell you what, follow me on LinkedIn, and then I'll post anything I find, and then you can do it that way. I mostly see attempts to read the data model and provide recommendations, and also metadata development. So if you're talking about AI, like Copilot implementation of AI over data models and things, yeah. So I think the big secret is in data modeling. I think that's the thing that people just don't. The semantic model is where the rubber meets the road for both AI and reporting. We already know this in reporting, because if you have a good data model, everything's easy, and if you have a bad data model, everything's hard. And I think the same thing will apply to AI. And so that's my little tip there, is that if you're a really good semantic modeler and you know data modeling inside out and star schemas and all that kind of stuff, and you're building really cool stuff, I think you're a very powerful person at the moment. So there you go. That's my hot tip on that stuff. All right, let's see what's on the next slide. Hey, it's example time. Look at that. I've timed that quickly. All right. So there's a few different experiences. I think the most interesting kind of one that, and how are we going for time? We've got about 10 minutes, is that right?
Oh, you can go a bit longer, mate. Like, you can,
Cool.
yeah,
All right.
15 minutes. Like the
15 minutes or so.
demos would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get some demos in. We'll see how we go. I haven't super prepared a bunch of different demos, so we'll see how it goes, but I'll try my best.
The demo gods will be on your side. You'll be right.
Yeah, demo gods on my side, hopefully. So talk a little bit about the different use cases. There is this idea that we're going to create like Star Trek, you know, like the captain of the ship, the CEO is going to stand up on the bridge and say, "Tell me everything," and then AI is going to present all of that information in this awesome way. We're way a long way from that. Like the end, so I call that like an end user experience, right? A low skilled person gets super valuable insights into your data dynamically. There's no data visualization. Nobody builds anything. Literally, the AI generates all of that. They're just a million miles away from that. It's not happening anytime soon. Where the stuff is happening, like we were just talking with Daniel, is like with the developer experience. So improving the developer experience, making code easier, building so Copilot for Power BI developers will look at, and for data engineers. So making code quicker, writing code for you, looking at your DAX, all that kind of stuff. Yes, there are Copilot experiences for that, and they're getting pretty good. They're getting pretty good. Then we'll get into some of the other potential use cases I kind of see, and then custom agents, which I think is awesome. If we get time, we'll talk about that. All right, so let's have a look at. Here's me super unprepared for this, but I'll see what I can do in terms of getting something up relatively quickly. So this is my demo environment. It's a F64 fabric environment. I've got this thing from Teams in the way. I hate it. Okay. I've turned on my F64, which is what I use for Copilot examples. But you don't need F64 anymore. Copilot works on non-F64 workspaces. I'm going to log into Power BI. Power BI/Fabric, whatever it currently is at the moment. Oh, my Fabric trial ends in many days. That's okay. I understand the risk of data loss. I've got one of my workspaces on trial, and I'm not sure which one. It'll be one of them. All right, so this is a Fabric thing. We've got some weather data, a lake house that's got weather data in it. That's cool. Let's see if this visual works. Make sure that we've got something in here. Yes, that seems to work. Hey, look, there's a Deno visual in here. How fortunate. Built with AI, by the way, no less. Hopefully it works. I haven't clicked on it for a while. It does. Look at this. It's beautiful. Okay, so I've got some stuff in my workspace. I've got some data. So what I might do is in this workspace, I will download this PBIX file. I'll set the workspace to have the correct license, because that's important. This will be probably using like my F2 license at the moment. License info is using my F2 license, which probably won't like me using Copilot on it, so I'm going to change it to my F64. Okay. All right. Make sure it's all still working. Looks like it is. So first thing we can look at is there's a Copilot button here. So let's click on it and see what it does. Now I'm using this is an end user kind of experience, right? Because I'm just viewing the report, although I am an owner and an editor of this report as well. Let's see how it goes. give me an executive summary. So anticipate likely questions from leadership. What insights should I look into? So here's some sample things. We'll just see if it works. Will it be able to tell me anything about this crazy line graph of weather data that I've got on here? So in my experience, this is not like, this is kind of not great. Like, can you really see your executives using this? Like it, and I think based on, you know, my most strictly anecdotal evidence of all of the people I interact with and my customers, no one's really using this this Copilot experience for end users right now. And I think it's pretty obvious why. It's like, it's not adding a lot of value. And you probably don't want to risk. And then it does things like this. I couldn't find info you requested. I'm not really sure about this visual. It's not particularly easy for them to do this. Now, the data model behind this might be, let's have a look at this one, which is the original data model. See if it, click on a different button and see if it works. So you can see this is why I'm a bit skeptical about the end user experience right now, is that I just don't think Copilot for Power BI is really giving a great end user experience, and that unless you've got a really absolutely mint data model, which is, you know, that classic, you know, click ops, you know, demos that Microsoft give where they use AdventureWorks and they've got a perfect semantic model in the back end, then yeah, maybe it does provide reasonable stuff. But if you just throw regular data at it, it's not particularly useful, and people don't find it particularly useful. And so you can kind of see that there's no real threat here, right? In the short term, at least.
Can I ask, Greg? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Just with what we're saying, obviously it's trying to work through. I know you said it's not the ideal use case. Have you found like the processing time of these AI algorithms, like they're usually pretty quick, like normally, or have you found it sort of obviously ranges?
I think that was what we saw there, was maybe on the slightly slow side, but typical.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
about how long it takes. Because what has to happen, it has to gather all the data from the semantic model. It takes some metadata. Actually, I think the way that Copilot works in Power BI is it actually has a pre-processing engine and a post-processing engine. And the pre-processing engine looks at your semantic model and the data, and then it creates a query for the OpenAI, and then OpenAI comes back to it to run it back against the engine. It's like
Yeah. So
there's
two
quite a few
part.
steps there.
Yeah.
It's like and so it's not particularly fast or intuitive
I
in
mean,
kind of
yeah,
that.
if the information it gives out at the end is like helpful and insightful, then you know it's no time at all. But I was just interested, like as a first pass, obviously compared to humans, it's quick, but yeah, it's just what does it kick out? So sorry, I'll let you
Yeah.
continue with the demo. Yeah.
No problem at all. So this is kind of cool, and where people are actually using this stuff is for commentary, right? You can actually use Copilot. You could copy this, like you could snip this out into a PowerPoint, and you could take this commentary stuff and post it next to it in the PowerPoint, and that's actually will save you a bit of time because you don't have to write the commentary. Or you could integrate the smart narrative visual and have commentary day to day. And like in real world organizations, literally, like people are doing that. Like I'm working with an organization right now, and they're doing that for their executive KPI dashboard that I built. They've got a person who runs that every week. It's a weekly dashboard, and then they run it through AI, and then they get the AI to provide some commentary, and then that person copies it into PowerPoint with the picture of the dashboard, and they edit the commentary because the AI gets it wrong half the time, and blah 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 blah. So it's saving that person time. They don't have to write out all the commentary. It's maybe picking up a couple of things that they're not seeing, and that's kind of cool. But we're not giving this AI experience to the end user to interact with right now, because why would you? Yeah. So end user experience, pretty dodgy. All right, so let's have a look at maybe the developer experiences, which are, I think, a little bit better for AI. So I'll download this report, which I think I have to click on this one, don't I? All right. Hopefully that file will open. Hopefully I've got the latest version of Power BI installed on this thing. I'm pretty sure I do. Should be fine. Do, 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 do.
While it's all loading up, Greg, just maybe
Yep.
there was one question. Any examples you
Yep.
can share of Copilot Studio agents with Fabric? Do you have
Copilot Studio agents? Yeah. Yeah, with Fabric is an interesting question. So Copilot Studio, yes. Agents, yes. Fabric integration with Copilot Studio agents. I'm not sure I've played with that much, so maybe we can have a look at it. If I have a chance, I'm definitely keen, because that's something that we want to do. So I think effectively you can set Fabric data, at least I hope this is true because they said it was going to be true a few months ago, but I haven't actually checked. What you're supposed to be able to do is set Fabric data as a source for your agents in Copilot Studio. So for those of you that don't know, Copilot Studio is your agent builder, and we will look at agents in a second because agents are one of my favorite areas of AI. You build an agent and then you set knowledge for that agent, right? So you say, hey, you know about all this cool stuff. And then in Copilot world, that means you can look at all your SharePoint and all that other stuff. Now, all of your data, your line of business data is going to live in Fabric, and Copilot agents can use Fabric as a data source. So rather than having to integrate your agents with all the different sources, you can actually integrate your agent just with Fabric, and it can see all of your line of business data, all this kind of stuff, to get access to it. Now you can also integrate something called, I think they're now called data agents. They used to be called AI skills, which is which is effectively text to SQL, and we'll get into what that means now, because that's one of the key kind of developer experiences that we're talking about. All right, so here's the same report. It's a very beautiful, messy line graph. Let's go back to our nice temperature and rainfall thing. Look at this, one of my favorite visuals, based on I think it's from the Tufte book. Edward Tufte was talking about the New York Times weather visual, so I like it. I thought it was appropriate. Okay, there's a Copilot button here. We've got a Copilot button. And so as long as I'm logged in with an account that has access to a workspace that is Copilot enabled, in this case my F64, then it will use Copilot. So I can say, click, make a new report. Let's do that, right? So this is now integrating the front end reporting part of Power BI. So are we going to have our jobs replaced by our thing? No. Okay. So it says here I can, based on the semantic model, I can create a report page focusing on various weather metrics, temperature analysis, rainfall, temperature extremes. Let me know which topic you like. All right. So let's do temperature analysis. Why not? Okay. Let's do temperature. Now okay, the first time I tried this, it massively broke. The second time I tried it, kind of worked. Third time I tried it, was okay. We'll see how it goes this time. It's literally like, it's different kind of every time I use it. So I'm always interested to see if it's getting any better. There was an error. Please restart Copilot. I might not be properly logged in for Copilot. Hopefully I am. Let's try again. Create a new report page. Go. Okay, I'm just going to copy paste one this time. No. Extremes. Okay, it did it. Awesome. So it's generated a new page. Look at that. Amazing visualization skills. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be building pretty reports anytime soon. That's my current thinking. Who knows? Maybe it'll figure it out. But how useful is this? Maybe. Oh, it's got a delta in here between min and max temperatures. It's not particularly useful, right? And this is the thing. It's like, turns out what we do is a little bit harder than than just being able to throw an AI at it and hope for the best. Now, obviously, this it'll improve over time. That'll get better and better, and then maybe one day, yeah, it will be able to dynamically generate report pages. But right now, I'm not feeling too threatened by this visualization. It's not. Don't see people being really, really too worried about this one. Now, Copilot gets really good at this level, at the code level, and this is what we were kind of talking about with Daniel, right? Is that you've got integrated Copilot inside DAX here. So I don't know what happens when I ask Copilot to write or edit that. Okay, so I haven't even thought about what measure I'd even make. Capitalized. Make a measure that calculates the average max temp for the last 18 months. So the thing about this DAX integrated Copilot is it actually knows DAX, unlike ChatGPT, which doesn't know DAX and will make up stuff like all sorts of DAX, weird DAX calculations. So I quite like this integration here. It gives you what you used to have, what it's proposing you want to do. You can run that and see if it works. So what did it do here? It said weather data. So the measure is called average max temperature last 18 months, which makes sense. Take the current date, gets a dates, it does a dates in period for the last 18 months, and returns the last 18-month period. Oh yeah, calculate the max temp. I mean, theoretically, it's pretty close. I don't know why it's not reducing it, not producing anything. There might be some context issues there, but it's like this isn't bad. This isn't bad. I can see this being useful for people. I really like this kind of GitHub style. This is what the old one looked like. This is what the new one was. You can click, is this good or not? Update the model with the changes or not. You can share feedback back to them to say what's going on. Like all of that. I quite like this experience, and this is like this kind of code level experience. And this is like inside Power BI, it's inside Power Query, it's inside most of the Fabric implementations. You can do it in notebooks, you can do it in all of those different bits and pieces. So you've got lots of different options in terms of like code stuff. And I think at the code level, Copilots are pretty good. So the developer experience is kind of good. Not that really worked, but like I'm not going to debug stuff here in the middle of the presentation. All right. I want to get back into what else. Okay, so let's look a little bit at like AI Foundry and like some of the Copilot Studio and that kind of stuff. So these are the more advanced areas. So if you go to just to Copilot, so if I go, probably Copilot will be the first thing it takes me to. Can I just type Copilot and it'll take me home? Yep. Okay, so this Copilot here in Power BI or in that Power BI desktop is completely different to this Copilot, right? Which is the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Now, where Copilot is really useful is like things like the Teams integrated Copilot. You have a meeting with a customer where you're trying to understand, or a stakeholder where you're trying to understand business requirements for your reporting. You record that meeting and then you get a Copilot to summarize that meeting. Fantastic. It's awesome. And I would recommend people use that all day, every day. It's my favorite way to use Copilot type stuff. You can also see over here on the right-hand side, you can create an agent. So an agent is something that is a preset set of instructions for a particular chat that you can create yourself, so that you can create it. And you had the session on GPTs. It's exactly the same as a GPT. I use them for things like structured documents. If I would need to fill out the same document over and over again, for me, because I'm a consultant, I'm doing lots of proposals. I've got a proposal agent. Here it is, Proposify. And so Proposify, if we edit this agent, better not uninstall it. That wouldn't be good. Let's see if I can edit it. Am I allowed to edit Proposify? I'm pretty sure I can. I don't know how to edit it. Oh, maybe I'll go to see more. Ready feedback? No. I think you go to create first and then you go edit. They've changed the button sequence here. Yeah, here we go. Back to my agents, then here to Proposify, and you click the pencil. All right. I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to be quick. So here, this takes me through a custom set of instructions, right, for a particular document that I want to fill out. And so the document is, I have an introduction and then a background, and then we're going to do this for the project, and here's the timeline, and here's the all the things we're going to do, and here's the risks. Like there's a structure to the document, and the AI knows the structure and it knows the format that each section needs to be in, and it steps me through that structure as I go. I say, hey, I want to create a new proposal. And it goes, right, first we need to do background. Tell me about the project. And then it says, next we need to do this, and tell me about this. And then it gives you stuff back. So where you're stepping through that process is fantastic. And that is, it says Copilot Studio here. This is like Copilot Studio Lite. You can then go into Copilot Studio and add extra cool things to your agent. You can add API calls, and it can do all these tools and tasks and things like that, going into more advanced kind of agent building. And this is an area I think is really interesting for data people to get into, because I think there's lots of scope and lots of crossover between what we do and what's happening at the moment. So that's kind of the agent world. And then if we look at AI Foundry, which we won't have time to go into too deep into AI Foundry, but ai.azure.com is AI Foundry, it turns out. This is where we get into like the really advanced model building stuff. So if you're building stuff in Copilot Studio and that kind of stuff, then this is like the next level of that, where you get a whole playground. You can create a really advanced multi-agent tool solutions. You can create real-time voice solutions. I've got the accountability buddy, which is obviously an AI I was working on. A bunch of different cool stuff you can do in. Actually, that might be a real-time voice demo. I think I did one that rings you up and reminds you to do what you're supposed to do, like for the day. So you have a task list, and then it says, hey, you forgot to, work out for the day or whatever. And so I'll see if this actually works. Okay, so I've got an endpoint happening. So what this does is it actually uses the OpenAI scenario. You've got to set up an OpenAI endpoint. There's a bit of stuff to get going there, but hopefully, if that is all set up, we might be able to see it in action, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this super fast. Playgrounds. Audio playground. So I think this is where, when you stop using keyboards, you're a friendly, helpful, witty AI. Act like a human, but remember that you're not a human, and all these things. Okay. Just say the word. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing and quickly reshare my screen, and then you should be able to hear what it says, because I didn't share a thing, and then we'll finish up with this. And I'll talk a little bit about what we could potentially use this for. Okay, so if I share my screen, you include audio, unshare, wait, that didn't work. Try again. Include sound, yes. Sharing, yes. I might not be able to use my microphone because I'm using it for Teams. Let's see if it will allow it. I might be able to use my other microphone, actually. It might be okay. Select microphone. It's not finding it. No. My microphone will be in use by... Oh, wait. No, there it goes. It is learning. We'll see if this works. Unable to establish a net WebSocket connection. Oh, bro. The demo gods. They're not with me. They're not with me. Oh, well, play with this. It's fun. So what's the use case? So what happens here is that you just literally talk to the AI, right? And it sounds like a person on the end of a phone, and it's really scary and weird, and it's kind of fun. What people are actually using this for is they're starting to do like voice enabled like they're taking data and they're giving it to these systems, and these systems are creating like podcasts of what's happening in the organization, and then they're sending that to the CEO so he can listen to a podcast about what's going on, but it's all just AI telling him the thing. That stuff is actually starting to happen, which is really cool. People are using Notebook LM, which is a Google tool to do that. Obviously, there is a bunch of governance issues around just piping all your enterprise data into things like Notebook LM. So not everyone's doing it for sure. But that is definitely an area that that is an interesting one as well. So Back to the prezzo. Are we getting to Star Trek anytime soon? I think the answer is probably no, but you can see that these tools are starting to integrate themselves into a bunch of different areas. In terms of skills for the future, the things that you can really do to kind of bring yourself is obviously learn about these things around AI, data literacy, which I'm sure you've already got, interpreting data and analyzing data, problem solving you already have if you're in the data world. It's really about continuous learning and staying up to date with what these tools are doing and how people are using them. There will be a bunch of online courses. Like I said, I'll put something on LinkedIn about online courses and which ones are going to be good. And because I'm going to be staying on top of that, particularly the agentic ones. And then organizations are really interested in this piece. So if you put yourself out there as the person that is interested in AI, you'll probably get a lot of traction, to be honest, because people are just not willing to step up and do that. So I think that's something to do. And then look out for mentors. Feel free to reach out to me if you've got any questions about doing AI, particularly over structured data. I'm very interested in this area. If you're trying to do it, then and you're struggling with it, I'd be interested to find out what your kind of challenges are and what's kind of happening. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to people about it. Where the rubber really meets the road, code checking and comments for reports, that's 100%, I would say, AI doing that for sure. I've seen organizations do data enrichment and categorization. So what they do is they pipe their data table out to AI and then they get it to classify one column, like just using an LLM. And I saw a really interesting thing in New Zealand doing that. So that was kind of cool. So that enrichment and categorization stuff is definitely something that people are doing right now. Glossaries, documentation, DAX measure definitions. Mate, it's like a cheat code. Just do it right now. It's great. And there's a few little external tools and things coming out where you can just literally just throw your code at it and say, hey, put all the comments in this and do all your documentation. Definitely want to look at that one. Requirements, like I said, from Teams transcripts and documentation of stuff, that's just like a no-brainer. And I'm sure you're already integrating AI into those things. There's lots and lots of scope to do really. So there's really no excuse to not have really, really good documentation about your data models and all of your stuff now, because it's literally so easy to do. You should just get
We might have lost Greg.
Yeah, I lost Greg. He might come back.
Hopefully he comes back. Otherwise we have your time. You're back, Greg.
We hit time and my computer ran out of batteries, so sorry about that.
It's all good, mate. That was fantastic. Like, I think even the demos are great, but even just seeing the different avenues where you go, clicking different buttons, what options we have available, largely focusing on the Copilot stuff within the Microsoft tenant, and as long as we got the right workspace capacity and all that sort of stuff set up. So I think people got a lot out of that. Let me just close out the formal part of the session. I acknowledge we're 3 minutes over time, but Greg, that was fantastic, mate. So thank you very much. As people know, yeah, we'll close the recording soon. That'll be available. I'll send out all the links. Greg, is it okay if I include your sort of contact details in like the blog? Yep. That'd be awesome. And then we're always looking for future presenters. For anyone that organizes meetups and things, it's always great to have people putting their hand up. Doesn't need to be like as advanced in sort of the AI space as what Greg shared today, which was fantastic. Even if you're sort of beginner, starting out, Power BI, want to share some of your different learnings and cool things, feel free to reach out if you'd like to share that with the wider community. But otherwise, thank you very much, everyone, for dialing in. This is a fantastic session. And Greg, especially thank you to you, mate. That was really, really good. I learned a lot. So really appreciate you sharing your wealth of knowledge. And I think speaking on behalf of everyone, lots of nice comments coming through, mate, and different claps. So as long as you're happy, Greg, 5 minutes now, mate, I'll stop the recording. But if anyone has any questions, I see Praveen's raise their hand. So feel free to come off mute, ask Greg directly, and I'll just stop the recording now. So thanks.
Yep, sounds good.